There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it had to have, or it has to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers, with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. I have simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and have drawn the logical conclusion. You can trust the guild. Fair fares is our motto. We haven't raised prices above 4 pence for years. That scoundrel stabbing that poor man on the floor, it beggars belief. I think because the whole thing, like, he was stabbed on the floor, but the picture shows him, like, sitting in the chair, so, I mean, like, I don't know if that's, like, the evidence. I'll save again. How about that? Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments, though, do they? Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. I'll have to throw everything I can at them and use some very persuasive language. Just a moment. According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh, I thought I was going to have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. They've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, they could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. Then what on earth am I supposed to do? Oh dear, I'm just citing what I've read about British law. Right, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work, then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments. What do you mean? Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom together. And that's the way to break them down, you mean? Yes, exactly. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, we can then contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. I see. So it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. In a way, then, this is similar to a regular cross-examination. Oh, yeah, I suppose you're right. Find contradictions in their statements and pit the jurors against one another to break them down. Okay, I might be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. I have to pull this off. Can we start proceedings, counsel? I would ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord. Okay, let me save. How about that? This shit is long. Okay. There was no one else, so it had to have been him. Trust the driver. 20 pence. Wait, 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. So what did this guy say? He said something about the... Oh. Should I? They both mentioned, but I think that's right, though, right? Like, for total, oh, wait a second, no, it's like the math isn't mathing, wait. The math isn't mathing, hold on a second. With fares totaling 20 pence? 4 passengers with fare totaling... Right? This math isn't mathing. Am I not right? Those 2 statements clearly contradict each other. They do? Explain yourself, counsel. Me? Oh dear, what have I said? I swear on Silver's Blaze's main and name, I haven't the first idea what you're thinking about. Talking about? According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus on the night in question, and according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares. Quite right, I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. That it is, a fair and convenient single price, just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. See, the math wasn't adding up. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man? Why? 4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication, oh, it would be 16 pence. Exactly. Exactly as I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact, or precisely one person's fare. One person's fare? Yes, in other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible there was another passenger we've heard nothing about. Good gracious. This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword. The figures your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy. I beg your pardon. Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he lets nefarious characters ride his omnibus. Alright then, how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end, Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire onto the innocent side of the set of scales. Now hold your horses there, coachman. We were all in agreement. Why do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo! Ah, this is all very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir, I'm going to do the same. For the love of Mike, not you as well. A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters. Oh, really? I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Ooh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo, you did it. If we can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. 2 more, actually. There is something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions. That's where you must strike next. So I need to pit 2 more jurors against each other and show that there's a contradiction in their assertions. Exactly! You can do it! Well, the scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. I'm changing... Okay, yeah, they're good. There was no one else. Oh, there was no one else? Okay, I mean, we know that that's technically not true. I can't show evidence, though, so... Oh, I can press. Oh, should I press, though? Here, I'll save again. I'm scared. You know how they do those things where it's like, oh, if you press someone or whatever, then you get a penalty. Okay, we did that one bit. But technically, he didn't get stabbed like that, though. That's the problem. See, I was like, oh, he didn't get... Like, at least the photo shows he didn't get stabbed in the side, right? If he was next to him. Because there wasn't any other injury on him, I'm going to assume. It was in the abdomen, like the front. We'll see. Okay, she's not very helpful. Oh! Those 2 statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, counsel, post haste. Oh, dearie me, I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3... What? Can't you see I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ha! Wanna test me, do you? It was like this. Struck the fellow next to him without even getting up, just like the prim banker said. Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do for you? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand, it was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so. Now don't move. Take a look at these 2 jurors. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. Well, I never. They're stabbing in totally different directions. What? Bless my stitches. What a muddle. What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh. But why? Why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide people telling lies. The scales? I don't believe it. Wait! Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Answer me this, dark jinx. Huh? Me? What exactly is the problem? What of it if 2 witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? What of it? Let's say the Shylock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus. And this young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again. And this old lady saw him do it. Well, what's to say it didn't happen like that? Who are you calling a dandy, sir? Why, I should take this knife to you. Who are you calling old? Why, I should take this needle to you. Ugh, they're ready to kill each other now. But could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the 2 witnesses see 2 different moments of the same crime? I'm actually not sure. Should I save again? Like, it always makes me feel like it's totally possible, but then it's like, sometimes it's like, you know what? No, it's not possible. So I'll just say it's possible. It's true. There's an outside chance of almost anything you... There's an outside chance of almost anything you care to mention. Exactly the point I've been trying to make. Before you go any further, Mr. Naruhodo... Oh, what is it? I think you should have a look through the court record. Ah, you see, the evidence makes it quite clear. There isn't even an outside chance of what the juror is saying. How did I... Well, because I'm dumb. At least they didn't penalize me. Okay, unfortunately, Mr. Foreman, what is it, you dark jinx? Come on, out with it. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. Because I don't know why, like... See, look, it was one of those fake outs where it's like, oh, it's not possible, so... I don't know. Well, what are you talking about, man? How can you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man? That's what we want to see. I say the 2 witnesses saw 2 different moments of the same crime. If you say that's out of the question, show me some proof. It might be the autopsy notes, right? Like where it says like, oh, he only got stabbed one time. It looks like the only way I'm going to convince him is to present him with something he can't dismiss. Some irrefutable hard evidence. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the two witnesses saw two different... A single stab wound. There you go. See, look, I'm I'm just not reading. This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen. Only once. Only once. It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means these witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen 2 different times. Alright. I concede defeat. Wait, that means 4 jurors are now leaning toward not guilty. We've done it, Mr. Naruhodo. We've won. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? I'll shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. But we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one, and if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off his head. Please tell me he's a barber. Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jurors for me to adjudicate, and the trial must continue. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places, and I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. So, Lord Van Zykes, continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you please. Having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hallowed chalice, it may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zykes, is it cold in here, or is it just me? As your acquainted tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination, so I honored a deathly silence and I listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. There is nothing so hard to prove as a self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Bring forth the witnesses once more. Witnesses, I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure. Oh yes, sir, that I did, sir. Of course I heard it. Oh yes, sir, I heard it. You, sir, on the end, the coachman, I believe it's Beppo? Yes, sir, my lord, sir. If it transpires that in your previous testimony, you were attempting to veil the presence of a 5th passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind, sir. Oh, mio Dio. Now then, witnesses, I hereby call on you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination. Okay, we have evidence of this banker guy, so... I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it, but... Well, I, for one, was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He fiddled us. He fiddled us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw McGill stab that man. Everything I said before stands. Oh, yes. Yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so. Yes. Council, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom fifth passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little... I do not know that that word. I don't know what that word is. Ooh. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold, and the last run of the day is always half empty. You have been dishonest, coachman. Oh, I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo. A disgrace. And your selfish actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence each is, yeah, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I can't make the result come out differently. No, that figures. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely. So, there were only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them standard 4 pence fare. Is that right? It's impossible to make the last run of the day pay. I was so cold. It was all I could do to stop myself passing out. I'm getting chilblains? Chilblains? Is that how you say? What is that? Just listening to you. It was terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for even keeping the bus running. Doesn't a dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny per passenger? You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night. Then we would have another suspect. Okay, you paid 5 pence for the bus. Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir. And I just told you that I did. A flat fare of 5 pence across the board. It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the phantom killer you so desperately needed, it's gone. Dead and buried. I'd have been happy if it ever existed in the first place. This blood-curdling sight, you mean the murder, I presume? Yes, sir. A loathsome sight. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man the moment his life is taken. Oh, well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment of the gent was stabbed. Good gracious, really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it. But Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. I heard the banker gent next to me take a sharp intake of breath. See, that's when I looked through the glass. That's when I saw that horrible blade poking out from his belly, all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating. I tell you, I saw Mr. McGill stab that man. So you saw the defendant, Mr. McGill, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason. Oh, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who was sitting next to him. That's what I said, isn't it? It was bothering me before this was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only the two of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a fifth passenger, but as yet, zero evidence. Then what are we wasting all this time for, eh? It's black and white. The man's guilty. Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. Wish I could work out what it was. Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Oh yes, that's right. You said the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip? I suppose. I might have, yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe. What's this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats on the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then when I turned around, yeah, I saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor and the knife was sticking up from his midriff. That's right, yes, and then the fellow holding the handle was the famous man, yes. So, in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought that I did, but when I go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing. Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now listen to me. I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime? No, he was fucking driving. Oh wait, who am I talking about? The banker or the other guy, the coachman? Well, it's a little hard to believe, certainly, unless you spend your time peeping through a skylight on the top of an omnibus, that is. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know, and I know what I saw. I remember it as clear as Ballarat Day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that all right. I'll tell you just how grim it was. Do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after that butcher stabbed the man? Do we press him again? I don't really think I... A blood-soaked... Ahem. Well, perhaps soaked is laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. And you saw that from the roof? Through the skylight? Well, the skylight's reasonably large, so I had a pretty good view. And there was a lamp on inside the carriage as well, so I'm quite sure of what I saw. This banker's latest statement. I feel sure there's something not quite right about it. When you feel something doesn't add up, that's when you should have a good look through the court record. Not long ago, this trial nearly came to an end. Somehow, we managed to keep our chances alive here. I can't waste this time in a bit. If you're not careful when you press these witnesses, the danger is that the jury will end up believing something unhelpful as they did before. Maybe, but we can't let the fear of that happening stop us from uncovering important new information. Yes, you're so right. Okay, so apparently there was... If you happen to spot one of the witnesses reacting in a strange... Okay, yeah, I just did. I just apparently he said something and it just did... Nothing clicked. Nothing clicked, okay? Nothing clicked. The brain takes a little while to work. Do you think I'd fit with those blood-soaked hands? Oh, like the hands? Like he was wearing gloves. Like, should I... Blood-soaked hands? Well, I admit that soaked might be laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain here. But, as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. But no, that can't be right. So you're the liar here, then. That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said it was both hands. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth? Well... It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands. It was only one, but the fact remains... The victim's blood was on the accused. No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands, which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Why? I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't whatever that means. He's claiming to have no reason to lie, but is that really the case? Mr. Naruhodo, if you have some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, it could turn the tide in this trial completely. Something that shows I have evidence. Maybe. I hope so. I'm gonna be so fucking mad if this also ended up being like a bullshit thing. The defense is ready to present evidence. I had a reason to lie. Well, okay, maybe it's not technically a reason to lie, but it is something else. Okay, to present the evidence. This is a list of all the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No, well, it's barely worthy of being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas, not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist. Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw, in a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant? Order! Order! Mr. Bruce Fairplay, Yes, my lord. Let me ask you again. And be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilded's hands. Both of them. And yet only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying... I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir? Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one. What? It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yes. Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. There was blood on both of both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard the scream. Anyway, the fact remains, there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all would have seen. Well, lo and behold, in truth of the fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated. I apologize, my lord, but honestly, there was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witnesses' accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case. Very well. Your cross-examination, please. Okay. Oh, oops, I pressed the wrong button. No. Okay, there was blood on the hand. Can I, like... Oh, I don't wanna... Wait, how do I get to the... I guess I can't. Well, I guess I can do it this way. They say that he was... But then was that true? Not that he was stabbed on the floor, but if he fell on the floor, like they were saying, wouldn't there be blood on the floor? You can certainly see the inside... inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin, so I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. It's not good for us. Okay. Well. Okay, there was blood on both. Right here, he didn't see it. Seeing the knife. Shed. Let's see. You definitely saw that too. Blood on both hands. Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. Only one of Mr. McGilda's gloves has any signs of blood on it. That's right. The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, when I looked down and I saw Mr. McGilda sitting beside the other fellow, I don't believe he was wearing any gloves. He wasn't wearing these gloves? That's correct, sir. And I saw the blood on both of his bare hands. It's true that the dark color stain on the dark leather gloves wouldn't be easy to see. I should point out that the police officer who apprehended the accused on the night in question reported that there was no trace of blood on Mr. McGilda's gloved hands. There wasn't blood on his hands? This is puzzling indeed. This must be significant somehow, I'm sure of it. It might be another one of those, like, you have to see if they react to something. You didn't see anything? Oh, yes, sir, that is to say, no, sir, I didn't. Very sorry about what I said before, sir. Very sorry. It was wrong of me to make up stories and say I saw him stab the man. Wouldn't you agree, sir? I know what you're insinuating, but I certainly wasn't making up stories. Still, to say you saw nothing isn't right either, is it? No, sir, I saw nothing at all. Mr. Beppo, you were driving your horses. At the very least, you must have enjoyed a good view of London streets, no? Oh, please, you didn't even see that? It was so cold that night, you see, it was all I could do to keep from passing out, sir. Yes, my head was fairly frozen solid, sorry to say, sir. It would seem prudent to avoid travel on the last omnibus service of London's cold winter nights. A bat ball! Mr. Fairplay didn't see Mr. Mason being stabbed at all. That's hugely significant. That's a hugely significant change in the facts of the case. And there's something else that's occurred to me whilst listening to the witness's latest testimony. Two of them are recounting what they saw through the skylight on the omnibus roof. I know it's a large window and certainly affords a good view of the inside, but, well, I think perhaps we ought to confirm what they're saying with our own eyes as much as possible. What do you mean? I mean that we can examine the evidence firsthand. The omnibus is here. It's a good idea, and we can consider the witness's statements while we're looking around. Oh, does that mean there's extra? Does that mean there's extra shit? I literally looked in this thing. Is there something underneath? Is there something? Maybe I might have to press more statements. No, the evidence tells us otherwise. We have the gloves the defendant was wearing on the night in question in the court record. I'm well aware of that, sir, but nevertheless, I know what I saw, and I stand by it. The man had blood on both of his hands. He's defiant, even in the face of hard evidence. He's steadfastly... He's steadfast... Is that how you even say this? Steadfastly? Or is that like... Maybe I'm just saying it weird, like I'm saying it too slow. Refusing to admit that he might be mistaken about what he saw, but why? Your reasoning is dire. One hand or two, the salient point remains unchanged. Minutes after the grim crime, the victim's blood dripped guiltily from the accused's fingers. I don't know if this, like, because it's like something about the skylight, but don't try to downplay this. Whether or not you saw the exact moment of the crime is a matter of fundamental importance as well, you know. But for crying out loud, we all know that no one else could have possibly done it. I was just trying to save us all some time. You have a loan of 20 guineas outstanding with the defendant, do you not? Had you hoped to release yourself from that financial burden by ensuring the defendant was found guilty? Well, that's not entirely not what I was hoping for. I just lost a little guinea or 10 when I backed the wrong horse in the derby, that's all. I was going to win it all back. There's a fixture this weekend, that's a sure thing. A little guinea or 10? I'm a banker. No one bats an eye if I borrow a little spending money for the weekend. I think you may have revealed rather more about your character than you bargained for, sir. This witness's scruples are not on trial here. Proceed to the next witness. Is that really how it's supposed to work? Okay, I pressed this one. I pressed that one. And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus? That's right. It was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember I was shivering. It was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on our roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh, why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. It was locked? That's right, and it's a public bus service for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below. Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down, I was glaring, long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal? I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside the cabin? See, this is like another one of those, like, I'm not even sure. I mean, heck, they say that this dude wasn't even wearing gloves and everything when he was... I mean... Okay, what if I say the wrong thing here? Like, what is the worst that could happen? They might not have been able to. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight and the floor of the upper deck. Is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, is there a portion of the cabin interior that would have been... Oh, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? By golly, really? Obviously at this stage we can't say for sure, but the possibility cannot be denied. At the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Oh yeah, like the seat right underneath them, right? That they can't see. They could see like at an angle, but since they're both sitting like the same, they're facing the same way, right? So yeah, they can't see like directly under them. Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponi's friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here, in the flesh. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. You will identify the area on this section. I'm pretty sure. Where exactly are you saying that there was an extra oh, this seat right over here, right? Because they can't fucking see it, because they're facing this way. It better be, or I'm just bad at damn puzzle games. Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other, which means the visible part of the cabin which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight is as I've drawn here. Ah, that's right, my lord. As you can see, The seat opposite to the one on which the victim and his attacker were sitting on is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it. It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. Can you? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? Oh, maybe it was our dude. Maybe it was our guy. It might have been our guy. That makes sense. Because he was there. But then, like... Oh, but then how did they... I might have just fucked up. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast. It's a hard lesson not yet learned. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting to turn. You have it. Is it not our guy? Because then that means they couldn't have seen our guy, but he was still there. And he fell asleep, and they couldn't see him. The person occupying the seat was obscure. This is our guy, was it not? I'm saving. I'm saving. If I fuck this up. The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witness on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded? What are you talking about, counsel? That's the name of the defendant. If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hallowed chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. He has more than one? Like he has more than one chalice? Lord Van Zykes? People talk of those tiny island nations in the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own. But I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built. But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claimed that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim. Yeah, we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains. The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. Exactly. They both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on the passenger's hands, both of them. And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit. Extraordinary. Ordar. What exactly are you postulating? The defense's postulation is just that, nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused. But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. The tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though. Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. And what particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First? I'm afraid I don't remember. And you call yourself a hatter? The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be sure? Because if there had been, the accused, Mr. McGilded, would undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Unless, that is, you are proposing an even more preposterous explanation. That the accused failed to even notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled. Oh. He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it. I mean, he fell asleep, though, so he could have totally passed out and then someone could have shown up. Or there's clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused Mr. McGilded to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? The prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? As a suspect, he will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out the man had been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord, should we ask Mr. McGilded to testify? Yeah, we kind of want his testimony. Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand. In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury. Yes. Well, I need a little time to consider this. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say. Get the man out here, I say. It would be utterly illogical to not hear his testimony. When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild. Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say. Oh yes, that would be lovely. Yes, the jury says the man must be heard. Very well, the court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once. Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear. Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? To be sure I have, my lord. There are now two matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin, as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police? Begad, no, 'tis not in my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the questions, please. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell yous all or keep my mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGilded? The fine fellow representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger. It's true? Aye, and 'twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened. You... what? No, Magnus McGilded, that convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Van Zykes. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I said nuttin'. Or whatever, nothing, when I was taken by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. Which was... well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and not in any way involved, you see. What? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into this here courtroom just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord. And who was this young child of whom you speak? That I don't know. You don't know? Well, the wee thing just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since. We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witness's statements to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings. What? Ah, smoke! Fire! There's a fire! Look, someone trying to get away! After them! It's no use! I can't see anything through all this smoke! What's going on? Be careful! Cover your face! Bailiff, don't let the accused escape! Secure the omnibus! I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff, amidst scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. Jesus Christ, these are getting longer and longer. I mean, I guess it's not as bad as like the investigation ones though, where it's like you can kind of get like you can get roadblocked, you can get blocked by like, oh, you didn't talk to so and so or didn't show them certain evidence or whatever, and get that dialogue to like keep it going. I think the only like roadblock here is just like not knowing what the fuck to do. Like me. Like me.